Hello, everyone. My name is Elena Paventa, and I'm a Club Growth Director for District 108. And this is our webinar on how to help clubs get over 20 members. And today we have a special guest, Elizabeth Nostedt, who is our Region 10 advisor and a very experienced Toastmaster. She's a region advisor for the second time, so I'm sure that we will get many interesting ideas from her today. I encourage you to write your questions during the presentation in the chat box, because in the end we will have 15 minutes question and answer session. And also you can write next to your name what is your position in the club or in the district, so that we know each other better. And now let's welcome Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Elena, for your warm welcome. And it's always a pleasure to talk to Toastmasters around the world, this time probably mostly in Europe, but a real treat to meet up with you. When District 108 asked me to do a webinar, I said, yes, I love to do webinars. Of course, what I prefer to do is even have presentations in person, but since we're in so many places, then it has to be by webinar. And in my presentation, I talk about how to get clubs over the 20 members, and with a focus to begin with about club coaches. So not everybody is familiar maybe with what club coaches are. So I'll touch on that first, and then we'll get into some ideas for generating more members into the club. So we can go to the next slide. So just so that you know the requirements of a club that has a lower number of members, to get a club coach assigned, then a club has to have at least one member, but not more than 12 members to qualify for getting a club coach appointed. And there can even be up to 2 club coaches per club. So I really recommend that you have more than one person, because it gives you a chance to share ideas and test out things as well with another person. And especially maybe if they're from 2 different clubs, it's a good idea. The coach may not be a member of the club at the time of their appointment, so it's somebody from outside who's maybe seen different things. And then the club coach would be recognized and receive their credit when the club achieves Distinguished Club or better by June 30th the current year, or even the following year, because sometimes it takes a bit longer to reach the next level. And next slide. So what really should a club coach do? Well, a club coach probably should not go in blazing with all their guns afire, but should go in like a coach might do, building rapport with the club leaders and the members who are there. And they should take the chance to observe and analyze what the environment is like, and then assist the club in generating solutions. So you don't have to come up with solutions yourself, because maybe the club has them, but it would be a good idea to have some solutions. And help the club develop a plan with some goals for improvement, because maybe they're doing something different today and it could be improved. And you're hoping to help the club achieve the goals. You want to give them enthusiasm. You want to develop that sense of trust and a sense of responsibility that the club could survive. The next slide. Well, there's got to be something in it for you as a club coach. So how would you benefit? You can develop your team building skills, because that's what you're doing, is ensuring that the team of officers will help build the club. It will expand your leadership experience. And I think maybe something that most people don't think about is coaching. And even that is a part of the new Pathways program about coaching. In a coaching situation, it's not telling or pointing or doing it that way. You're asking questions. And this will also increase your skills as a facilitator and negotiator. and especially diplomacy skills. But you can share your expertise if you get the chance that you've built a trust with the club. Then you could always ask them, well, do you think that this and this action might work for your club? And then you would benefit because you'd also get the credit towards your DTM. The next slide. So we've written some criteria here that would, how would this help the club coach win, which also means the club wins. And I've written these things here as statements, but what would be helpful is if the club coach actually asked each of these as a question. So as an example for the first one, I would ask the members, do you really and sincerely want your club to be successful? And for the second one, are you willing to work together with other members to solve the club's problems? Are you still enthusiastic about Toastmasters and your club? And then it's one of those questions that are also in the Moments of Truth module. Is your meeting place convenient, and does it have a good environment for the meeting? I know, for example, one club was meeting in, it was a common space, but there was also some activity going on in the room beside. So it caused a lot of noise for the people trying to run the Toastmaster meeting. And we suggested that they should move to a new location, and they did find it. And one of the hallmarks of a Toastmaster meeting, of course, is to begin and end on time. So maybe the clubs that are having the hard time weren't doing that because maybe they thought they should be friendly and that sort of thing. But suggest that you could run a professional meeting and then socialize after the meeting. Next slide. There's some more criteria for being a winning club. Somehow you need to get some guests there. And in the second part, you want to ensure that the guests are warmly welcomed, that they should feel welcome, and people should ask them who they are and what about their interests. What's not written there is that you should be taking information from the guests, such as an email address, so that the next point, they can receive an invitation after the meeting to come back to the next one. And the criteria would be that the guests who attend a meeting would eventually want to join the club. So they would find something at the meeting that interested them. And that's also why at the start you ask them about their interests, such as, what made you interested to come to our group? Are you trying to improve your speaking skills, or are you new in the city and wanted to meet other people? We all have a lot of reasons why we might have joined a club. So ask them about their interests, and then you can give them answers based on that. At the bottom, I've written new members because we do want to turn these guests into members. So once they do become a member, make sure that they're welcome to the group and given special attention and support. And one of the ways to give special attention is to have new member orientation, so they find out more about Toastmasters and the club. And the next slide. There's even more criteria. Can you imagine? Your meeting should be fun. And I think you might have heard this in several situations, that if the meeting's fun, people are going to keep coming back. And meetings can be made fun by having a varied program and having dynamic interaction in the group. We'll come back to some points about how to make the program more fun. To make it fun and make it organized, then the people who are participating should be prepared, and they should have received a reminder in advance. And of course, for our clubs that are using Easy Speak, it's certainly so easy to give a reminder to people about the meeting or about something they should prepare. And of course, all our members should give speeches from the manuals. And now it's not actually considered a manual, but especially the new members should be following the program in pathways. And so if I say manuals, I do mean pathways. We also want our speakers to be well prepared and deliver the speech to the best of their ability. That's what makes it so interesting. I know I attended a club I haven't been to for a while the other day, and you could see that the speakers had prepared because they were following what it said in the pathways example, and they knew their speech top notch. Of course, what makes the program interesting as well is that the evaluations are something that builds people up, and it gives a positive direction for improvement. And here we need to remember that it's positive things said about the speaker or the speech that make people feel good. And really, they can only take in one or possibly two suggestions for improvement. It shouldn't be more than that. As well, the members should be supportive of one another. And this can happen in so many different ways. It can be if somebody finds out at the last minute that they can't attend, then another member is able to take over the role that they had, or maybe even pop in and do an impromptu speech. Why not? The next slide, please. I do have a couple of more criteria. The club officers should be performing their duties. And for example, one of the duties should be that at least one of the officers or another member is welcoming the guests at the door. Somebody should be producing the agenda. It might be an officer or it might be the Toastmaster. And then the officers should be showing their roles and responsibilities. In some clubs, it means that the president is opening the meeting. In other clubs, it might be the sergeant at arms that opens the meeting. And the sergeant at arms is maybe the person that ensures the banner is hanging up and maybe there's coffee available. So those would be the roles and responsibilities to think of. And if the officers are using the Distinguished Club Program and the Club Success Plan, then those are the tools that are used for the planning and the goal setting. And then people know that they are being helped to reach their goals. I had a member ask me the other day well, I don't know where I am in the program. I don't know how many speeches I have to give to get my level. This was actually in the old session. So they didn't even realize it was the 10 speeches to reach the CC. As well, there was an advanced member who thought she was close to her DTM, but she didn't know. So again, it's more tools that the officers could use to help the members know that they're getting close to another level. Now at the very bottom of the slide, I've included a link, and I think one of us could also put that into the chat box later if I don't share the slides with everybody. And this is a guide at Toastmasters.org. It's called the Club Coach Troubleshooting Guide. And it's got such great ideas in it that I really do hope that the club coach has access to the guide if we have some club coaches that are in the meeting now. On the next slide as well, I've included a number of different resources. So there's the links to them at Toastmasters.org. So there's both sponsors and mentors and the coach training. There's how to build the Toastmaster Club. There's still more ideas in there that would apply to trying to regenerate a club that has lower members. Now, one of the things that some people don't know is how would they find out if they've been appointed as a club coach? And this is something that the district officers need to do to appoint the club coaches, and then you can see whether you are one. So if we go to the next slide, most of you, as you're probably leaders of the club, probably know the Toastmasters.org page, and you probably know what I've highlighted in red there, the Leadership Central. So this is the first step. You click on Leadership Central. And for this one, you don't even have to log in. And if I go to the next slide, once you've clicked on Leadership Central, you'll see it's in the menu bar there. And if you hovered over Leadership Central, you would see the Distinguished Performance Reports. So you would click on that. And next slide. On there, you would actually see, to begin with, up at the top left-hand corner, a list of all the districts. So you would click on your district to find out, what's happening. And then down on the left side at the bottom, you'd see the entry called Daily Reports. So you would click on that after you've put in your district. Next slide. On the daily reports is lots of interesting things to look at. And I hope as club officers, you're already going into this space. Some of you might just be regular members attending. So this is something anybody can go in and look at. And down at the bottom of this list on the right-hand side, I've highlighted in red the club coaches. So here's where you can see if you've been appointed as a coach or if you've reached your goal of being the coach. So if we go to the next slide, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a clip out of the slide. At the left side of the slide that is not showing is the name of the club where the person would have been appointed as a coach. In the middle, you see the person's name. You see next the date that they began as a club coach. And at the very right, you see it's either pending or awarded. So I hope some of you are here, maybe know the people who are on this list. And you could also check whether the club that they were appointed to has reached distinguished status. And in some cases, maybe it hasn't yet, but it's a reminder to the person that they should talk to, I guess, the CGD to ensure that they get their credit once the club has become a distinguished club or reached the 20 members. So I think that is all about the aspects related to club coach. So we'll go to the next slide where we'll get into some ideas about what do you do to promote your club so that you actually get some guests. And we'll go right away to the next slide. So here's some general questions to think about and reflect upon is, before you came into Toastmasters, did you know what Toastmasters was? And how did you find out about it? Did somebody tell you about it? Did you read about it? Maybe find it in a book? Because if you don't know what Toastmasters is, generally it's a pretty good secret because we don't do so much advertising yet. And it means that people have to find out about it themselves by putting in some search words. But the second part, what does your club do? And where does it meet? Those are pretty important details to have out on web pages or easy speak homepages so that people could actually find you. And then maybe the key thing is to indicate what's in it for them if they were reading this, or why is it worth it for them to join? There's always some reason why people want to join up a Toastmaster club. And that's what you need to find out from the people who come as guests. But you got to get them as guests first. Next slide. So again, I wrote some questions to make you think a bit. And if we had the really perfect world in the webinar, we would open the lines and I would ask the question, how did you find out about Toastmasters? But we're going to not do it that way this time. And I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of different ideas about how you could promote your club and what makes it good. What did everyone say? Finding out about Toastmasters might depend on why what you were looking for when you were looking for it. As I mentioned earlier on, we actually had a member who said, I'm new in this city. I want to find a network of people. And that was the reason why she joined. She didn't care so much for what Toastmasters was about, giving speeches and that. She wanted a network. So we never really know until we ask people, you know, what's the reason for joining and how did they find out about it? So we'll go to the next slide and I will start giving lots of ideas here to share with you. I think even nowadays, newspaper articles are a good way to reach out to a broad public. And it's especially good if the newspapers are writing about special events that might happen, like awards or like contests. I had one member tell us that every time, now mind you, he did it on Facebook, or the club did, that after every meeting, they had selected the best speaker, and that person held a trophy and was awarded the best speaker. And then that was put out on Facebook, and apparently this generated a lot of interest. So if you could put it on Facebook, why not in a newspaper article? Sometimes you need to give some local celebrities or dignitaries an award of some sort. Perhaps they've done something special in the community or done something special to promote Toastmasters. So why not give them an award? And it can be something as simple as a certificate, but hopefully they also know how to get press coverage. So the press will show up at your meeting, giving the celebrity the press coverage. I think sometimes, number 3, we forget about that people still do listen to the radio and watch television. So why not try to get somebody on a local talk show or local morning show where they're talking about various themes? Because even the televisions and the radios need new ideas to share with their guests. So come up with some different ideas to share on a talk show and get in touch with the talk show hosts. Can even be about personal development, how somebody benefit from Toastmasters. Number 4 there, I think most of the Toastmaster groups do have a Facebook group or page. Many of them are also writing Twitter comments, but maybe not so many are doing little Facebook lives on the evening of your club, or a couple of days before your club meeting, so that you can say, hey, we're having this great meeting, come and join us. Because a 1-minute Facebook Live presentation will get you more interest out of your friends and your friends' friends than just having an entry about our next meeting. Number 5 there, meetup groups. We're having great success at various cities in Europe. We had a discussion over the weekend in a couple of situations where people said they are getting anywhere from 2 to 5 guests from the meetup posting. So that's something I really strongly recommend. And another recommendation is, especially if you have more than one Toastmaster group in the same city or town where you are, then get together in the meetup group, because it's not a competition of one group over another group. But if you all put your club meeting dates in the same meetup place, then you'll get more promotion, because somebody might read your entry where you're meeting on Monday nights and they say, oh, I can't go Mondays, I'm busy. But then they see the other group on Tuesdays. So why not share the wealth that way? Of course, we need websites, and be sure to have the important keywords for them, and why not in multiple languages? And then you need to keep it up to date, of course. I did happen to find a few very old websites which had meeting dates back to 2017. So keep them up to date. In Easy Speak, we also have a promotion page. And if you're Googling, the Easy Speak page also comes up. So your club should keep that up to date. We'll go to the next slide. Now, postcards. Who would have thought? But isn't it kind of a treat to get something in the mail nowadays when most of the things are done with emails? So, for instance, all our clubs in Gothenburg got together and made a postcard that had all the clubs in Gothenburg by club name, where they met, day of the week, and a contact person. And so we gave this to the guests, and as well, we sent it out to past members to remind them about the great things that were happening in the club. And don't forget that magical thing of talking to other people. Why not tell your friends about it, your work colleagues? How about when you visit your doctor, your dentist, or even people in the elevator? Have your 30-second elevator pitch if you perhaps have your office in a tall building or your home in a tall building. You got time in the elevator for that. Number 10 there. In one of the clubs I belong to, the club met on one of the floors in the building. So we were always able to put up posters in the elevator, and the club was on one of the floors, and that meant that people could just go there. But we had to keep changing the poster often with different messages. And on the Toastmasters homepage, you can download, I believe there's at least 4 different posters that are available. And why not make your own if it's not in the language that you use? Local government, why not your city hall or your parliament in some way? I'm sure your local government people need to be better presenters. Chamber of Commerce, most cities have a Chamber of Commerce. Why not let them know about the group? And I know, for instance, the Chamber of Commerce in our city has special groups for newcomers to the city, and they let them know about the various groups. So we have ourselves listed with the Chamber of Commerce for the newcomers. Libraries, you might say, well, are people still going to libraries? But they are. There's still people who like to read books. And if you contact the library, you could offer them your magazine for somebody who has extra, and be sure to put your contact details on the magazine. Maybe the library will put it in their list of magazines and that they have. On the next page, we have some more ideas. Still on the library idea is libraries might have a notice board. They're often, at least here in our city, our libraries have meeting rooms. So they have notice boards where we could put up a notice, like a poster. So for all the people who work at a company, why not offer to write an article for your company newsletter? It can be something about speaking tips, or it can be something about how you improved your skills that made you better in your work situation. As well, you could get permission to use the articles from the Toastmaster magazine, or give them other articles from the business magazine like Ford's, Harvard Business Review, or Huffington, as they often have articles about presentation skills and getting better through Toastmasters. In a couple of the companies I worked at, then when new employees were coming on board, we were able from our Toastmaster group to have about 5 minutes to talk about our Toastmaster group and say how it could benefit the new employee. So that's what I mean by employee orientation sessions. Here I come back to welcome to the city. This might be through your Chamber of Commerce, or there might be through other groups, because new people, when they move to the city, they need to find out what's happening. So wouldn't Toastmasters be a great way to introduce them to fun and friendly people? Here's another place you can leave your magazines or some brochures. What about at a health club, a sports club where people go to exercise? How about your dentist, your doctor, or a hair salon? Because in all those places, people are usually sitting down in a reception So why not display the magazine or a brochure there? Next slide. I think many people have been to a university or a technical university or a business school. There you could leave the magazines or brochures as well. Or why not talk to somebody in charge of courses and ask them if you could come in and give some promotion in one of the courses that they're conducting. Then what about high schools? And number 20, why not conduct some educational sessions at the high school, or show them a speech contest, or do a debate? I think high schools are usually looking for speakers. I give an example here in Gothenburg. There's an organization called Transfer, and their whole premise is that they want adults to go out and speak in schools and about any topic imaginable. So why not about that? Community events. I know I heard from a lot of people on the weekend that they've done various community events and promoted them. Some of the events were the new people moving to the city, but why not create your own event, like having speaker in the park, like Hyde Park would be. Perhaps only doable in the summer, but use your creation, create some other event and promote it widely. Okay, there's other groups for foreigners that are moving to the city. Maybe I've said that a few times now. Do each of your members or each of your officers have a business card? That should definitely be used for promoting the club. And they're easy to get, the business cards, or print out your own. Toastmasters has a template available for that. Then there's other community groups around, like the Lions or the Rotary. And I know especially the Rotary, at least in our city here, they have lunch meetings and they're always looking for speakers who are doing interesting topics. So you can go and promote Toastmasters and as well promote yourself and widen your network by attending one of their meetings. I think most of us now have a Toastmaster pin, or maybe that's something that your club could invest in so that when people became a new member, they could give out a Toastmaster pin. So when people see the pins on you, it usually creates interest. And as well, the Toastmaster pins for the officers are fun to look at too. They're a little bit different. The bottom one, yes, it just fits in there, is you probably have a whole list of your former members. Why not invite them to come back again? And maybe especially when you have a special event, like maybe somebody's doing an educational session in the club. So why not invite people back? They're usually flattered that you thought of them and you'd like them to come back. Maybe they left because they were just busy at work at that point in time and they're not so busy anymore. Okay, I've got one more slide. More ideas. Posters. Well, you know, I debated about whether posters would work, but I think there's still a lot of places that have lunchrooms or coffee rooms that you could put a poster. And another idea that I've written there, which includes 26 and 27, is a business park. What I mean by a business park is a building, an office building, where there are many different businesses that rent space in the building. And these business parks are always looking for ways that they can keep their tenants. So if you contact the business park and say, you have this great idea and that you'd even like to hold the Toastmaster meeting there, this is a way that it's win-win for the business parks, because they would be offering Toastmasters to all the people in the building, and it would be like a really big chance to contact a lot of people. And you can offer to do some different seminars that might be interesting to the people who are in the building. Even something like how to use PowerPoint in a more effective way, or some tips for PowerPoint. Those are the kind of seminars that other people in the office park might attend. Some of you might have done youth leadership, And this is where you need to be in touch with, well, I say teenagers there, but it could be even younger people, where maybe you can get in at a school and do this youth leadership program. And be sure to invite the parents too. So especially inform the parents about that you're running the youth leadership, and invite the parents to the last session where all the students will be presenting themselves as the last speech of the youth leadership session. Speechcraft would be similar to a youth leadership, except it's with adults. And Speechcraft is where you conduct a program for 6 to 8 weeks. And basically it is the same as running a Toastmaster meeting, but the people who think they don't have the time, they want to take a course for 6 to 8 weeks, then offer them that way. The Speechcraft is also a way for a group, a club, to earn money, because you can charge the people who attend a Speechcraft the fee for attending. Of course, you need a few willing people who are willing to run the Speechcraft, but it's a great way to get more members into the club, because usually once they see how much fun the Toastmasters is, then they want to continue. What we've done when we've run Speechcraft before is that fee that they paid to join the club is usually exactly same amount as what a membership fee costs. So we turn them into members by turning that Speechcraft fee into a membership fee. I guess flyers is another thing, or brochures would be the other name to call it, is leave them in some great locations. Most cities nowadays have a Starbucks or a similar kind of coffee shop. Why not see if you can set that up right beside the cashier so that people see it as they're paying for their coffee. Leave them in libraries, leave them in business locations, at companies, your Chamber of Commerce. You could get in their newsletter, or even sometimes on a windshield in a parking lot. And number 31 here, have an elevator speech ready for when you're going up and down in those elevators. Or why not success stories? So train your members to talk about Toastmasters. Some of you may have heard our past region advisor, Aletta, where she talked about success stories. And one of the ways that they did it was at their club is they had a member talk about how they had progressed, how they had succeeded being a part of Toastmasters. And it was like a 1 to 2 minute story. And that made it really fun for guests attending and even members to hear the results of how people progressed as Toastmasters. And then don't forget a club newsletter. Now it might be electronic or it might be in print. If you do a print one, then the same thing. Have it put out in other places where you might find people who'd be interested in Toastmasters. So I think I will stop there for a moment and breathe. And we could open it up to questions that have come in, or to comments that other people have had as you've been listening to me. So Elena, are you able to see the questions? And yes.
I don't see any questions in the chat box. So if you have any question to Elizabeth, please unmute yourself now and you can ask a question.
Okay, I do see a couple of things there. I see Catalan Paval wrote that you need 12 members. Any club that has 12 members in it is eligible to have a club coach. So it was between 1 and 12 members is eligible.
And Elizabeth, I had a question about that. If we have a club of 12 or less members, then we can appoint a club coach. And if we have a very weak club, but it has 13, 14, sometimes 15 members, but they are really struggling, is there a chance also to appoint a coach for such a club?
Well, I would say appoint the coach, but they wouldn't get the credit. but and it's horrible for me to say this, but you know, right now is your payment time, right? So what about if that club that's suffering a little maybe only paid 12 members at this renewal time, and then you could appoint a club coach, and then the people who used to be a member but didn't pay immediately could come back in as members.
Okay, this is a very good idea. Thank you. On the beginning of October, yes, we can appoint a coach.
Yeah, so maybe you just have to hold off a couple of member payments. It's not good for the district as a whole, but if the club maybe has members who aren't showing up all the time, you know, maybe their membership fee doesn't come in right away either. Ah, okay. So coaching clubs from a distance, I think I see. Of course, you can coach clubs from a distance, forming the team. So I guess when you say the team, you mean the 2 club coaches that could be there, or you could mean the team of officers for the club. If you mean the club coaches, then it becomes anybody who's interested to become a club coach, and anybody who could read the club coach manual, and maybe anybody who's started a club before, because the same principles apply as when you started the club. You always did lots of action to get more members into the club. So I'm not sure I've answered that, Catalan, but yeah, you can coach from a distance, because like the same way as I'm doing this meeting online, then I know I've also attended another club by doing an online meeting. So I could give them some ideas, I could give them support, I could show them how to do a good evaluation. And we did that online. So that particular club was actually really good on making friends with all the clubs around the country, and they always invited the people from the other clubs to attend online and give evaluations or even give speeches. So it can be done. So Lena wrote a question about any suggestions if the club is an advanced club and requires a CC or level 3 pathways before accepting a member. Well, if you aren't keeping at your 20 members, then I wonder if you should be an advanced club. Or does your city have enough other regular clubs that you have members that you can draw upon to become members in your advanced club? Some clubs who have been advanced eased up on their advanced requirements and made the level be maybe like 7 or 8 speeches. So if your club doesn't have lots of other clubs to feed the advanced club, then maybe you have to relax the requirements a bit there. Oh, so some people, says Nicholas, are complaining about EasySpeak being difficult to use. Oh, on a tablet or mobile phone. Isn't there a mobile version of EasySpeak? And I do not know about a refresh version, but in case any of the members who are attending this meeting are maybe app programmers, we can certainly put you in touch with the EasySpeak team, because we're always looking for more people who can adjust EasySpeak to make it more friendly to either mobile phones or make a standard app for it. So in case that's you, just get in touch with me afterwards, and I'd be glad to put you in touch with the people who are continuing to develop EasySpeak. Anybody want to speak and ask a question or comment?
I can ask also one more question. I had about these success stories you mentioned.
Mhm.
How does it look like? Does it happen every meeting? So after the meeting, someone stands up and says success stories, or before the meeting? How is it done?
I think it could be at either time. If you have it, as an example, if you had it at the start of the meeting, I think usually the person is telling something that's very touching or very close to them, so that can give a really good feel to the meeting. Or even at the end of the meeting, before people are leaving to mingle or anything like that, then it can be the 2-minute close to the meeting about, here's why I joined Toastmasters and here's what it's done for me.
Mm-hmm. So it is part of the agenda.
I think that would be the best way, and the person should practice their presentation to keep it short and what they got out of it, how they changed because they joined Toastmasters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great idea to get guests to join the meeting, the club.
Yeah. And then Catalan is asking, how long does a coach have to get the job done? So whenever you're appointed as a coach, you have the first year until June 30th to help the club be distinguished. And then you have an additional year to the next June 30th to get the job done. And actually, if it even takes into the next year, I don't think I've ever seen that they've taken the coach away from you if you happen to reach it in the third year. So it's just would be a little unfortunate if it took that long to have the club regenerate. You could coach more clubs at the same time, but that must mean you're a very energetic person. And the benefit would come instead by giving more people the opportunity to be a club coach. So if there's more clubs that need it, then hopefully you can find more people in your area to be coaches, or even, as we said, somebody from afar. So it's actually recommended by Toastmasters that at the district level, there should be somebody coordinating. It should be called the Club Coach Committee, where the district checks in about which clubs need a coach, and then they also give training to the club coaches about, a little bit similar to this, about how to take care of the club and how to generate more ideas for more members. And thank you, Justina, for new ideas, and that is corporate summits, and that is where you invite a lot of companies to one location to hear some speakers, educational sessions, and trying to get the decision makers from the corporations to attend and listen in about what Toastmasters is about and what it can do for a company. So the corporate summits that Justina is mentioning is also a way to start a completely new club. And let me add in another idea that I didn't have on the list so far, and it was an idea that was done in Portugal. So the group of very energetic Portuguese people approached the alumni committee of the business school. So lots of people go through the business school, and when they are done at the business school, they become an alumni. And they approached them and said, we could offer this presentation. You might say it's a little bit like a corporate summit. Maybe they called it a leadership summit or something like that. They had over 200 people attend that meeting, and at least 100 people said they were interested. I'm not quite sure, because if you had 100 people attend, that should mean you could get 5 clubs developed out of that. So why not try an idea with the alumni of the universities? So, Catalan, not all corporate clubs have a limitation of guests coming from the outside, but maybe a corporate club would be able to have guests come into the lobby of their building. And I know that one club met over the weekend, said they hold their meeting in the lobby of the building, and then people often stop in, say they're leaving the building, they stop in and listen to the meeting. Why not? And okay, there's going to be a recording. And Melbourne is saying they have a problem with a fixed venue. It changes every time. Wow, that's tough. I haven't had the experience where it's changed every time, but I know one of the clubs that I was associated with, I know they changed meetings every maybe 3 or 4 meetings, and that made it tough to keep people coming back to there. I would say you need to try to find a better venue that you can hold for the whole time. I know in some countries, the venue has been at schools or community halls. And in those cities, the community halls or the schools are rented out by the local government of the community. And they are able to rent the school or the public facilities at a very low price. So check out those kind of locations, even schools, to see if they would do it. Okay, so what she wrote again, corporate clubs can't sign members from outside the company. Well, we've overcome that in some of the corporates I belong to so the meeting was held at the corporate premises, but we allowed members from outside the club. And those members always paid their own membership fee. What it meant is that the members who were inside the corporation had to let the guests be let into the meeting because it was a locked building, but it worked out. It just had to be some dedicated members within the club who let them come in. I'm not sure why the corporation would want to stop guests from coming in, because surely even having the club there must be a good promotional thing for the company itself. Maybe if it was a highly, what's the word I want? Highly restricted company, then I could see that. For instance, I visited a company just this past week, and the company was in software development, and just for me to go in and visit the company, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement just to get into the building. So if that's the case, then that kind of club could be really hard. That would mean that anybody who was a guest had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I'm not sure that would hold between from time to time when a person might visit. So a former Siemens location, Catalan mentions, then maybe the club should be held off premise and still invite the Siemens employees to attend that meeting. So we are coming close to the end of the time. What I understand from Alina is that she will share this recording on a YouTube channel in some way. And as well, I will make these slides available so that you can reference the links that I put in and share these other ideas with your club members. It's the best thing that we share these ideas as far as possible, because maybe just one idea will spark the interest in the club that's having difficulty. And somebody else wrote, if I just read the last comment here, Andre wrote, solve the problem of changing venues by renting a room by the hour at a co-working space. And isn't that brilliant? That's actually one of the ideas I meant to add here is these new sort of rent an office by the hour or the day or something, co-working space. Those are brilliant places to hold a Toastmaster meeting. And if we split the price of it over the members, then your membership fee is a little bit more, but it's usually not so bad. And somebody's putting a channel in there. I'm not sure why they put the channel in the chat box. Maybe that's their channel. Elena, I'll turn it back to you to make any closing comments or anything else about these kind of webinars.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you. It was very professional as usual. We had lots of important information, great
Elena,
ideas on promoting clubs.
Yeah.
And we had about 50 people attending the webinar. So we will, yes, hello?
Oh, you were sort of faded out for a minute, so I'm not sure what it was.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better, okay.
So we will share this webinar on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And next month, we will also have our district leadership of our club. So please follow our District 108 Facebook, LinkedIn pages, and we will keep you posted, and we will also inform you about materials from this webinar and all the links. So thank you very much, and thank you one more time, Elizabeth.
My pleasure. And I wish I could have made it interactive, but at least we got lots of ideas shared. So thanks a lot, everybody, for attending.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Bye for now.